The phrase, "you are what you eat," gets eerily literal when it comes to your brain. A high-fat diet doesn't just weigh down your waistline, it scrambles your mood, fogs your memory, and nudges your brain toward inflammation, all through the intimate communication superhighway known as the gut-brain axis. This bidirectional network connects the enteric nervous system, your second brain in the gut, with the central nervous system, using hormones, neurotransmitters, immune messengers, and even bacteria to exchange real-time status updates. And when your gut is inflamed, this axis becomes a glitchy feedback loop, one that can destabilize mood, cognition, and mental health. Here's how the sabotage begins. A high-fat diet, especially one rich in saturated fats and ultra-processed foods, rapidly alters the gut microbiota. Beneficial microbes that normally help produce calming neurotransmitters like serotonin and GABA begin to decline. In their place, inflammation-prone, endotoxin-shedding species, especially gram-negative bacteria, proliferate. As gut diversity drops and short-chain fatty acid, SCFA, production falls, the gut lining becomes more permeable. This is the infamous leaky gut scenario. Tight junctions between intestinal cells loosen, and microbial fragments like lipopolysaccharides, LPS, leak into circulation. The immune system responds by releasing pro-inflammatory cytokines, TNF-A, IL-6, IL-1 and these molecules don't stop at the gut. They travel through the bloodstream and cross the blood-brain barrier, BBB, especially if the BBB is already weakened from chronic inflammation or stress. Once inside the brain, these cytokines can activate microglia, the brain's resident immune cells. Microglia are normally protective, but under constant exposure to systemic inflammation, they become overactive, releasing more cytokines, oxidative stress molecules, and neurotoxic metabolites. This is neuroinflammation, subtle, slow-burning, and deeply disruptive. The result? Altered neurotransmitter synthesis, impaired synaptic plasticity, reduced neurogenesis in the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, and dysfunction in regions that regulate emotion and executive function. Studies have linked high-fat diets to increased risk of depression, anxiety, brain fog, and cognitive decline, even without obvious obesity. In animal models, high-fat feeding for just a few weeks is enough to cause measurable deficits in learning and memory, as well as increased markers of brain inflammation. One particularly vulnerable region is the hypothalamus, which controls appetite, metabolism, sleep, and stress response. High-fat diets trigger hypothalamic inflammation almost immediately, within 24 hours in some studies, disrupting its ability to regulate energy balance and mood. This can set off a vicious cycle. Inflammation leads to altered appetite control, which leads to more unhealthy eating, more inflammation, and worsening mental and metabolic health. It doesn't stop there. Gut inflammation also affects the vagus nerve, a primary conduit of gut-brain signaling. In a healthy system, the vagus sends anti-inflammatory signals from the brain to the gut, helping maintain homeostasis. But chronic inflammation can dull or dysregulate vagal tone, weakening this calming feedback loop. When vagal signaling breaks down, the brain becomes less responsive to the state of the gut and more susceptible to emotional volatility and stress reactivity. Meanwhile, IL-22, the cytokine that helps maintain gut integrity, declines under a high-fat regime. With less IL-22, the gut barrier breaks down further, the mucus layer thins, and antimicrobial defenses fade. As a result, even more inflammatory triggers leak through, amplifying the problem. It's like losing both the firewall and the IT support at the same time while malware floods your system. The irony is that many people turn to fatty comfort foods when they're feeling down or stressed, unknowingly feeding the exact feedback loop that makes them more anxious, less resilient, and cognitively dulled. Over time, this can contribute to more serious outcomes: major depression, Alzheimer's risk, and neurodevelopmental disorders. And while the damage isn't instant, it adds up. Repeated weekend binges, emotional eating habits, or daily doses of processed fats chip away at both gut and brain resilience, until one day, you're not just bloated and sluggish, but foggy, irritable, and emotionally fragile. So, here's the brain's version of a cry for help. If you're experiencing persistent low mood, brain fog, anxiety, or fatigue, your gut may be inflamed, even if your stomach feels fine. And if your diet resembles a festival of saturated fat and minimal fiber, Your brain isn't just at risk, it's already involved. The good news? The gut-brain axis is dynamic and remarkably responsive to change. Rebuilding the microbiome with fiber, fermented foods, polyphenol, and omega-3s doesn't just calm the gut. It improves vagal tone, reduces neuroinflammation, and supports mood-regulating neurotransmitters. Translation: what's good for your gut lining is also good for your thoughts, your focus, and your peace of mind. Final warning: with just the right amount of drama, every time you eat like your gut doesn't matter, your brain takes a hit it didn't see coming. If you want clearer thinking and calmer moods, you might need to swap the fries for fermented cabbage. Your synapses will thank you, eventually.